So, over the past week and a half, something very interesting has happened that has changed our opinions drastically about a man we like to call Hulk Hogan. Gawker managed to reveal something very interesting about Hogan, namely that he went on a racist tirade about dem evil black people. We wanted to talk about the controversy, but some of us on the cast, namely myself, felt a little uncomfortable talking about that. But given the controversy that's been unfolding so far between Hulk Hogan and Gawker, we decided to talk about some of our most interesting and captivating controversies that have been going on within the WWE. WWE and wrestling as a whole is no stranger to controversy. All the way from the steroid scandals of the 1980s and 90s, all the way up to today, there have been so many jaw-dropping and crazy events, both within kayfabe and outside of kayfabe, that have captured our imaginations and changed our opinions about some individuals. So, we're gonna outline some of our favorites right now. Greetings, my name is DJ Calcos, and I am joined by such and such, and the other such and such, namely Nikki V.
I'm the other one.
And Toon Critic.
I'm the fan favorite.
Then who the fuck am I?
You're the heel.
Hey!
To go back on what you said, I thought Hogan was a dickbag from the start, so...
Yeah, well, okay, we all did, but this kind of just escalated that further.
Yeah, I was perfectly content on calling him a dickbag. I didn't know I could also throw in a racist dickbag.
That was shocking. I woke up and then I saw that and I was like, what the fuck just happened?
I would say it's shocking, but there are a lot of wrestlers who aren't huge fans of certain people. Like, you've seen the stuff that Warrior talked about. Flair might be a little bit on that side. Like, there's a lot of wrestlers who are not the best of human beings.
When I read about this, I think right around the same time that Calcos did, I thought it was some TMZ, tabloid, oh, this is some stuff we found out, and it's just it's trash. But the more I started to read about it, the more that I actually read what he said, it's very surprising. It's very surprising because WWE has gone out of their way now to pretend that Hulk Hogan does not exist. Now, with one person on this list, they got away with that, and it's tragic, but he wasn't that huge part of wrestling.
Massive spoilers.
Oh, come on, you knew we were going to talk about
exactly. We couldn't not talk about him. I think people will get it. But with Hulk Hogan, this is Hulk fucking Hogan. WWE has erased Hulk Hogan from their history, and that is a much bigger impact. They're no longer selling merchandise. They can't even mention him. He's not on Tough Enough. He's not the general manager for some Australian tour. As far as WWE is concerned, Hulk Hogan no longer exists. Think about that.
WrestleMania is dead.
Think about that. One of the most prolific and iconic wrestlers of any generation is gone.
I don't even know how they're going to be able to pull that off because wrestling in the late 80s was basically just Hogan and friends.
Exactly. If you saw this today, okay, imagine if this happened today. Imagine if John Cena was the one that did all this and they erased John Cena from history.
I will say, though, before we go on to the actual list, I just want to say I'm not defending Gawker at all. Gawker is a cesspool of bullshit and a lot more bullshit that invaded Hogan's privacy to get this. So yeah. Gawker can go fuck a bag of dicks as well.
They're both going to burn for this. Well, not for this, but in general, they're both going to end up.
Yeah. Big ass controversy that's still unfolding. We're not going to see the results of that until at least this winter when the trial between Hogan and Gawker goes on. I'm going to have to play devil's advocate based on current events and hope that Hogan kicks the shit out of Gawker. And given what Hogan, what truths have been revealed to Hogan, might be in the minority, but I still say Gawker can go fuck a bag of dicks.
Definitely. Yeah. Although, did you know that the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast that's going to be happening with Paige, the original guest was going to be Hogan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine if that didn't change.
If WWE wasn't publicly traded, they absolutely would have kept that on. That would have been a PR nightmare, but the publicity they would have gotten would have just been amazing.
dude, I would absolutely watch the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast featuring Hulk Hogan right now. Just to kind of get it all out in the air and kind of get his voice out there, especially considering Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan do not like each other. Like, at all.
Yeah, we were all looking forward to that interview, but now it's going to be Paige, so hopefully Stone Cold can whip up some really good questions for her, because we've loved Stone Cold's interviews. His interview with Vince McMahon was really eye-opening and brought Cesaro his delayed push. He's finally getting one. His interview with Triple H was incredibly compelling. His interview with Paul Heyman was not compelling as much as it was just really fun. So hopefully Paige can live up to that, although my expectations are not nearly as high as it would have been with Hulk Hogan. But
Definitely.
in any case, I think we should get started with our list. So, Toon, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, fun that we're talking about Hogan because he's actually first on the docket today. So, okay.
Enough of the thing for today.
So, when I mention Hulk Hogan and controversy, everybody's associating what's happening recently with Hogan. But the one big controversy that Hulk Hogan was a part of, we're going to go all the way back to WCW. When Hogan left WWE for WCW, when he joined, nobody really knew what to expect. It was a huge thing because Hogan was like, back then he was the Cena, I guess, of the WWE. Everybody loved him. He was being pushed to the moon and back, all this other stuff. So when he showed up, God, forgive me, I don't know the exact pay-per-view. It was Bash at the Beach something. What was the year?
94.
94. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so it was Bash at the Beach, 94. There was some stuff going on with, God, people should know this. They know this, the whole history here. The whole, there's the third guy, Hall and Nash.
Oh, you're talking about the pay-per-view, because the pay-per-view that Hogan debuted at was Bash at the Beach 94. The one where this event took place at was 96.
Oh, okay, 96.
It was also
my bad.
Bastard at the Beach. Though.
Yeah.
2
So-
years to the date afterwards.
I'm talking about when Hulk Hogan turned heel. This was probably one of the most shocking moments at around that time, where Hogan was, the perfect face. Everybody loved him, kids loved him, all this other stuff, and then he turns heel, and that makes everybody pissed. Parents are pissed, kids are pissed. Back then, don't worry, they didn't know if that was real or not. Kids were susceptible to all sorts of things.
You want to know who wasn't
Kids are
pissed,
dumb.
though? You want to know who wasn't pissed? People like us.
There was a smart crowd back in the early 90s, never forget.
It wasn't as prevalent as it is now, but there absolutely were smart mark
Absolutely.
crowds back then, especially surrounding Madison Square Garden. Those guys were the Smarks before Philadelphia took over with ECW, but a lot of us were getting really, really bored with Hulk Hogan, and we, thanks to early ECW and other hardcore wrestling promotions, were starting to become a more prevalent audience. And the only people that liked Hulk Hogan at the time were kids and their parents, which was an audience that was dwindling. So in 96, we all know the story Hulk Hogan turned heel, and I want to get into the backstory of how and why he turned heel, but first I just want to notice that this was the event that put the Attitude Era in motion. People think that the moment that put the Attitude Era in motion was the Montreal Screwjob. No, this was, because this was the moment that drove kids and their parents away, because to them there was no longer any baby faces rooting for, and brought in the adult male demographic 18 to 30. That was what set everything off, because all of a sudden Hulk Hogan was cool now. You had the New World Order of wrestling. You had these black t-shirts, really simple minimalistic black t-shirts that people bought in record numbers. Wrestling after that had changed.
Wrestling became cool for people who were in their teenage years. Back then, this was around 96 or so. This was when I was just starting to get into school. When you get into that era, all across schools across the country, you saw NWO t-shirts and Hollywood Hulk Hogan things. And it was at that point, Hulk Hogan and the NWO just turned wrestling into something for people older than 5 to watch.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty interesting, too, because when he did turn heel, people were throwing trash into the ring. We don't see that anymore. We don't see, at least not in WWE, we don't see people throwing trash into the ring. We don't see, people getting that upset.
Like, I really thought that was going to happen whenever Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble this year. But sadly, no. Like, it makes me wonder what it's going to take. Roman Reigns wins the 2016 Royal Rumble. That would do it.
Again.
Yeah, that right there would do it, especially since there isn't a second championship to divvy it around. Now, because there isn't a second championship, for the first time since 2003, the person that wins the Royal Rumble is incredibly important, because the person that wins the Royal Rumble, they've only got one championship to go to. You can't split it up anymore.
That kind of sucks, because I liked it when you could, like, split it up.
That was neat, but, I mean, it kind of lowered the stakes, because you had 2 Money in the Bank cash-ins, so if one failed, you had the other one. You had the person that won the Royal Rumble didn't necessarily have to main event WrestleMania. You saw that several times. You saw that in 2011, 2010, 2011, 2012.
I kind of wish they only did have one Money in the Bank just to go between both championships.
Yeah.
That was when it was best.
Getting back to Hogan, though.
Yes, getting back to Hogan, I want to talk about the precursor that happened, though, because for a while, Eric Bischoff wanted Hogan to turn heel. He wanted him to turn heel because he knew that would make Hogan relevant again. But Hogan told him infamously, "You won't understand until you walk a mile in my red boots," and then showed him the door. But a bunch of Hogan's friends talked to him and said, "Look, you have The Undertaker, a guy that's dead, and he's a babyface, so the lines between heel and face are not as concrete as they were once before. So you have to turn heel, Hogan." And eventually he balked. But it's funny because if you watch Bash at the Beach, I implore you to do this. Go watch Bash at the Beach 96 and watch as Hogan walks down the aisle. Look at his face. He's not happy and cheery like he usually is. He looks incredibly nervous. And this is because, as a lot of people know, Hogan had creative control. He didn't have to turn heel at all. Like, the backup was supposed to be Sting. Sting was supposed to be the third man. But Hogan showed up, and if he balked, it was going to be Sting. And as a matter of fact, it's even right up until the leg drop, because when he's in the corner, right as he's about to do the leg drop on Savage, he kind of turns to the crowd and sneers and says, whatever, I'll do it. Why not? So it was right up until that moment he could have said, yeah, no, I'm not doing it.
Makes me kind of wonder what would happen if he did just, like if he just said, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And then
Hogan never turned heel. Dude, if Hogan never turned heel, he probably would have just eventually faded away.
Yeah, and then Sting was the one who came out and made the save for the NWO. Like,
actually, Sting was in the ring at the time.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, like, could he still have made the save on them if he...
It's really confusing, to be honest. The controversy is very multifaceted because of Hogan's unwillingness to do it until after the fact, the crowd's reaction to Hogan turning heel, the giant shift in audience that happened, and the fact that WCW Monday Nitro beat Raw in the ratings for a year and a half, thanks to the turn that Hogan did, and thanks to the compelling storylines that came out of that. There was a lot going on.
Yeah, but I'm curious if a Sting-led NWO would have had the same impact. Would it have started the Attitude Era?
No way. Nope.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the big, great what-if stories in wrestling history.
Which is fair that we talk about it first, so...
Yeah, absolutely.
Next one.
Okay, so this one is, I think, the most recent one on our list. This is one that happened. Nobody expected it at all. It was a big, big twist in the way that a certain wrestler is booked. And ever since this moment happened, the futures of 2 wrestlers in question were completely uncertain. But all we know is, now that it's happened, there's no going back. And WWE took a massive risk trying to do this. The year was 2014. The event was WrestleMania 30. And the event was Brock Lesnar breaking The Undertaker's undefeated streak.
It's been 16 months since it happened. How are we feeling about it now? Is the bad taste out of our mouths yet?
Nope, not for me. Sir.
With me, it kind of fluctuates. I'm like, was it the right decision?
No.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. I mean, Lesnar is now booked to be a beast, and he's an international sensation because he's the guy that broke the streak. But now that Undertaker might be getting his win back, the impact of that
Exactly.
would
It makes
be
it
kind of
pointless.
diminished. But then again, you also have a lot of the Undertaker loyalists, which is 99% of the WWE's audience, that say that he should have retired with the streak intact, and if the streak was broken, it shouldn't have been Lesnar, it should have been someone different, like Shawn Michaels, or most notably Triple H at WrestleMania 28. I go back and forth. I honestly have no idea, and nobody will have any idea. This will be one of the outcomes and one of the moments that will be talked about for the rest of our lives. Like 30 years from now, we're still going to be wondering, was that correct? Was that the right decision?
I mean, at the end of the day, Undertaker did want Lesnar to be the one to do it. And I can understand why, because it put Lesnar in a good spot. But here's the thing. Doing so, and then having this rematch, it makes it completely pointless now. See, when Lesnar broke the streak, I think it's safe to say all three of us were shocked, like genuinely speechless shocked. Like
I was less shocked because when I watched WrestleMania 30, I wasn't as invested in the streak because when I watched as a teenager, I didn't know what the streak was. Even though the streak had been a thing for a few years at that point, I didn't know of a streak. So coming into WrestleMania, I was completely blind.
I had seen the streak from WrestleMania. I saw the match against Mark Henry at 22, Batista I think at 23. Did Batista do 23 or 24?
Okay, here's how it went. For me, it was all the way back from like WrestleMania 20. So it was Kane, then it was Randy Orton, then it was Mark Henry, then Batista, Edge, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Punk, and then Lesnar. In a perfect world, it should have ended at the Hell in a Cell between, Triple H and Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. That ending, that is perfect. That's how you end it. You don't have Taker come back for WrestleMania and do another streak match. That's it. But I really bring it back for Punk, and I was scared because I was happy that, Punk would probably do it, but at the same time, I didn't want Taker to do it, and then Taker won. I'm like, okay. But then Lesnar comes along and does it, and I'm still shocked to this day. I don't think I've actually gotten over it because it not just went with me on a personal level because this is like one of my idols. This also affected. Here's the thing I should probably mention. My grandma watches wrestling with me. She's like one of the biggest wrestling fans I know of. And it hurt her. I could see the look on her face. Like she didn't really want to watch the rest of the pay-per-view. She wasn't even happy that Daniel Bryan won later that night. She was like sour for like a few months.
Jeez.
I had to coax her into watching wrestling again because she was that upset over it. And to be fair, I was too.
I will say though, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
okay.
There's a very important thing to mention because the feeling that your grandmother had is the same feeling that a lot of other people had, but they were able to wake up and shake off the funk for another 30 minutes. And that's because Daniel Bryan. I think it's a testament to the pulling power that Daniel Bryan had around WrestleMania 30 that he doesn't have so much of now, that he was able to bring the crowd back from the brink of despair. Like, that is the kind of thing that you need to end the pay-per-view on. You don't continue after that because it's such a downer. It's sort of like when HBK retired at WrestleMania 26. The reason why that was the main event is because you can't have anything follow that. But they had Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Batista follow that, and they were able to do it. And I think that is such a massive testament to just how over Daniel Bryan was.
Wasn't there also a Divas match in between the Undertaker match and the
I feel so sorry for those women.
Oh, that must have been I think it was the match where like there was 14 divas in the ring and they were all trying to and AJ won, and it was just like nobody gave a fuck because we were still like in like the tremors hadn't stopped.
That was like AJ's like WrestleMania moment and nobody gave a shit, and I feel so sorry about that.
I want to mention though just how well they did this though, because when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker, his theme music didn't play. All you heard was ding, 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 ding. The crowd jumps up off of their chairs, and then they had cameras positioned all over the place that focused in on specific fan reactions that they cut to between. And that really sold the moment, because especially since Justin Roberts didn't announce the winner for at least like 30 seconds after the result had been decided, because they needed that feeling to linger, like, oh my god, Brock Lesnar just beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And then Brock Lesnar's theme music plays, and then Undertaker is left alone in the ring, and we get those iconic shots of Undertaker lying in the ring with the screens that say 21-1 on them.
It almost made it seem like it wasn't planned. It was almost like, okay, we've got the Undertaker's music all prepped up and ready. Oh, fuck.
But it totally was.
Can I also just mention something? What happened during the match? Now, here's the thing. I am perfectly fine if Undertaker loses. Everybody's going to lose at some point. But what I don't approve of is how Lesnar did the match. Taker had a fucking concussion during that match. And yet, somehow they still managed to go through with it. I am pretty sure that Taker was supposed to win, but because of the concussion, they had to make it, like, switch it around. That's my theory.
No, I disagree, because this is The Undertaker you're talking about. He is one of the last traditionalist purists of wrestling. The only way The Undertaker would not have finished that match is if he died. Like, if he was set to win the match, he would have won. Like, Lesnar could have torn his arm off. Undertaker would have finished the match.
Hell,
Undertaker's balls could have been ripped off. Undertaker would have finished that match.
Hell, if he would have died, his last words would have been, "Pin me."
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. If Taker was supposed to lose to Lesnar, if Lesnar was supposed to break the streak, why didn't he do it sooner? Because here's the thing. I could picture Lesnar, when Lesnar was red hot, when he was, like, beating the shit out of Taker, and then he beats Taker at that WrestleMania, say, when, like, Taker's still, like, the American Badass or whatever. If he had won then, we really probably, well, actually, no. We probably wouldn't have had, we wouldn't have had that great 4 set of matches. But why Lesnar? Why then? Like, when I mean then, I mean last year. But
that is a question. That is a question that cannot be answered, because it doesn't matter who beat him. John Cena could have beat him. Why Cena? Why that year? Eddie Guerrero could have beaten him. Why Eddie? Why that year? Could have been anybody. You pick a name that has been on the roster since the streak was a thing around the time that he beat Kane in 98. It wouldn't have been the right choice. The first choice that they chose to beat the Undertaker streak was Randy Orton in 2005 to solidify the Legend Killer gimmick, but Orton refused. The next person was supposed to be Kurt Angle, all the way up to Batista. Ever since WrestleMania 21, they have been searching for the one person to beat the streak. Every single opponent that the Undertaker has had at WrestleMania, all the way from there, they've asked the question, is this the guy? And we would be asking the question, why, no matter who beat him? Because the logic of The Undertaker losing at WrestleMania does not make sense. The closest person that it makes sense to is Bray Wyatt, and even then it doesn't make sense.
All right, then let me ask a question to you guys, and let me ask a question. Who do you think should have ended the streak other than Lesnar?
I think it should have been Punk, if we're being totally honest. Like, at WrestleMania 29, right after Paul Bearer died. Like, that would have been, like, the most powerful moment, kayfabe-wise, because for the longest time, Paul Bearer and that urn were, like, the source of his powers. And with Bearer gone, it would sort of make a little bit of kayfabe sense that he would be an easier opponent to beat. I am kayfabing it up super hard right now.
Yeah, that would, personally, I think that would have been in really bad taste. But again, this is the WWE we're talking about. But still, I think it would have been
fucking taste.
I think it should have been Bray Wyatt. I mean, Bray Wyatt or Randy Orton. If Randy Orton won at WrestleMania 21, it wouldn't have had the impact it would have had if Bray Wyatt won. Because let's face it, 13 is a larger number than is a smaller number than 22.
I think it should have been, if I had to pick anyone that I'd be comfortable with, it would either be Punk or it would be Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. Just the way that they built all that up with the promos, with Shawn Michaels doing his thing.
You mean Triple H at WrestleMania 28. You've referenced that too much for that not to be a choice.
Okay, for him to lose there? No. If Taker deserved to win there, I think, as his last thing.
Taker going out on a win, though?
If it were to end, though, I would have had Shawn Michaels do it. I would have had Shawn Michaels do it at WrestleMania 25 because they were building it up to like be this really big fight. And if that had ended there, I think I think maybe it
And
would have been less painful.
And the other thing about Punk winning would have been like he theoretically would have still had a long career ahead of him. He would have been able to build off of that win at WrestleMania 29 and just gone to the fucking moon and back with that. And it's kind of the same way with Brock Lesnar now. Like, he's still probably got a good 5 or 6 years left in him as a top flight main event star. And this is the catalyst that got him over that hard. This is what turned Brock Lesnar from just the MMA guy who went back to wrestling into the god of wrestling. Like, now he is, kayfabe-wise, one of the strongest people in WWE history. And now the rub that's going to come off of him is going to be fucking unbelievable to the first person who ends up beating him.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to agree with you, Nikki. I think Punk should have done it.
I think our discussion right now, our discussion right now, I think is a testament to just how controversial this moment is, because we could talk about this for another hour and it still won't feel right.
No.
Yeah.
It won't.
In fact, we already pretty much have.
Yeah.
God, we're not even halfway through this.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar breaking the streak is easily one of the most controversial moments in wrestling history. Nikki, you're next.
All right, I'm next.
Punk?
Yeah, I found it a little bit surprising that I was able to get my hands on this choice, but yeah. Oh man, this was the event that kicked off the reality era. Kayfabe would never be the same after this moment. Like, it was back in 2008, I want to say? 2008 or 2000?
No. 2010 or 11, I think.
10 or 11, yeah. It was
Money in the Bank 2011. It's 2011.
Okay, 2011. My years in terms of wrestling are...
No, I thought it was 2008 too, so...
But yeah, it was the CM Punk pipe bomb. Arguably the most or one of the biggest promos in WWE history. Like, it was unbelievable how scathing it got after a while. Just like you could feel Punk just like so happy to get all of this shit off of his chest and just being able to lay into Vince and Trips and Steph and everybody involved so fucking hard. Like, he let everybody have it on that. And like, the setup for it was kind of cool. Like, it was the main event of Raw. John Cena was going up against R-Truth. Believe it or not, he was once a main eventer.
Yeah, can you believe R-Truth main evented a pay-per-view for the WWE Championship? I can't.
It was barely a pay-per-view. It was fucking Capital Punishment.
Yeah, it's more or less...
Does anyone remember Capital Punishment, kids?
I do. I remember that it was stupid.
But either way, like, Punk comes out and distracts Cena. Cena gets put through a table, and I believe it was a tables match, so that ended the match. Yeah. R-Truth wins.
That's kind of swept under the rug, though.
Yeah. That's like the 10th most important thing about this segment. Cena's lying there just fucking dead. And then Punk grabs a microphone, heads back up to the top of the ramp, and just...
He sits down and he goes, he lets loose.
He just let everybody have it. Like, he talked about how, like, the harshest one of all, of course, the harshest one was the one where he said that this company would be better off once Vince McMahon was dead.
Yeah.
Like, I can just imagine during that entire thing, like, Vince and Kevin Dunn are sitting in the back going, wait, we've got gold on our hands. And then as soon as he says that, he's like, oh my God. Oh, we're cutting this so fucking hard. And, like, the next break he gets. And just...
I think the plan was always to have the mic cut, because from what we know from the CM Punk Best in the World documentary is that was entirely unscripted. It was a worked shoot in that CM Punk was told that he could do that, but it was mostly shoot because everything that CM Punk said was everything that he felt. So I have a feeling that Vince and Dunn cut his mic because he was going over time, and it was like the right time. It was a good time to just be like, okay, we're out, we're done.
Yeah, because like the moment he cut it was when he was about to get into a story about how about the whole bullying campaign that they had going on, and it was the right moment to cut right there. A, because they didn't want Punk to besmirch the be a star thing, which is absolutely ridiculous because the WWE is some of the biggest bullies fucking ever. But
Oh yeah,
B,
tell me about it. Right back.
Piggy James. But also because it was a good spot to like end it off right there, because he had said he wasn't gonna top Vince McMahon should be dead.
That promo, I mean, it revealed a lot about the WWE, but it also raised a whole bunch of questions about why CM Punk would have this kind of logic. Because to most fans, you look at WWE and you would think, I would love to work for these guys. Even though the hours are long, you get to travel the world, you get to work with some of the most advanced stadium technology ever, with the Titantron, you get to interact with really famous people, you get to do a lot of this stuff. Even if you're a wrestler, like WWE should be the most fun place ever. And CM Punk, in a 7.5-minute promo, revealed that no, that's not the case. But it also raised a lot of questions about how the WWE is run. I believe that promo is the most important promo that anyone has ever cut in WWE history. There's a lot of important promos. There's the promo that launched ECW, revolving around the NWA Championship in '94. There's the promo that Medusa cut, throwing the WWE Women's Championship in the trash on WCW Monday Nitro. There's a lot
of the crop.
Yeah, there's the Randy Savage cream of the crop promo. There's the Hard Times Dusty Rhodes promo. There's a lot.
Flair won the title.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many, but that one for me takes the cake, because before that promo, the WWE was in the middle of a massive 3-year rut. They had just gone through a massive upsetting event in 2007 with the death of Chris Benoit. Because Linda McMahon was running for Senate, they had switched all of their programming to super family-friendly, squeaky clean PG. Cena was upsetting the entire roster, and because of it, no one was able to go over, and everybody was just kind of going through a revolving door of bullshit, and people were getting tired. They were getting tired, because if you weren't a fan of Cena, then you couldn't be a fan of WWE, because that's all that mattered. But everybody that watched WWE that didn't like Cena had a hero, and his name was Phil CM Punk Brooks. When he cut that promo, that revealed everything that people were thinking, like us, the people that read dirt sheets and shit, and because we're pathetic wastes of space. We read all that shit, and we look at CM Punk's promo and we're like, wow, holy shit. But the promo is important for a second reason. It gave us arguably the greatest build-up to a match ever.
Oh yes, Money in the Bank 2011. If we haven't talked about that enough, well...
I'm not even talking about the match. The match could have sucked donkey balls for all I care. I'm talking specifically about the 3-week build-up that went into that match.
It really helped push things. What I loved about this is, like, after this, like, I was in high school at the time, all this great stuff started happening. Like, after that pipe bomb, I felt like I could do whatever I wanted in the world. I could finally speak my mind. But that was on a personal level. From what the WWE did with this, they ran with this as fast as they could. Seeing all the great segments that were with, like, involving with Vince McMahon, it was so great to see all this play out. It was giving Punk, like, the push that he finally deserved. It made him sort of like the new Stone Cold Steve Austin in a sense. And I loved every single second of it. It's right down to the freaking ice cream bars line. That is great. That got him like
I'm
a t-shirt.
still surprised that WWE hasn't jumped on that and they didn't introduce their own line of ice cream bars with superstars' faces on them. I'm kind of shocked.
It's a CM Punk idea. They wouldn't have allowed it.
Well, the pipe bomb was a CM Punk idea, and
I mean now.
The Money in the Bank match was a CM Punk idea. The SummerSlam match was a CM Punk idea. I mean, most of CM Punk's promos from the span of June to the end of August were very much outside of kayfabe. Including, I think the biggest kayfabe breaker was the contract signing promo before SummerSlam 2011, where CM Punk said, "Oh, Johnny Boy, John Laurinaitis, you say that you're an engaging and interactive talent manager. Tell me, did you go face to face or did you text Vladimir Kozlov when you fired him last week?"
God damn.
That is a line that CM Punk actually said to John Laurinaitis on air on WWE Monday Night Raw. Ladies and gentlemen, holy shit.
Punk did a lot of those, but the one thing I really love that he did, now for the time, when you have a feud against Cena, Cena's always made to look unstoppable, but there's only a handful of people that could go toe-to-toe with Cena, and you believed that Cena could get his ass kicked. And at the time, it was Edge. Edge was like the one that was like, forgive me for saying this, the kryptonite to Cena. But then along comes Punk. And Punk is just, he beats him once, he beats him twice. He seems to be the only one that Cena can't seem to beat.
There's only been one match in the last 18 years that Metzler has gave a 5-star rating to. And that was the Money in the Bank match.
WWE-wise, I should say, Meltzer really likes strong-style Japanese wrestling, so he'll throw 5 stars at those matches all the goddamn time.
Yeah, if you're in the Tokyo Dome, congratulations, you just had a fucking 5-star match. But no, I mean WWE-wise, there's only been one 5-star WWE match by Metzler, and that was fucking Money in the Bank 2011, Punk versus Cena. Like, the build, the match, the outcome, the post-match was all perfect.
And it was all accentuated by the fact that Money in the Bank 2011, not just that match, but the entire pay-per-view is an all-time classic. There isn't a single minute of that pay-per-view that I don't enjoy watching. The entire thing, from top to bottom, is amazing. And it all started with one of the most talked about moments in wrestling history, the CM Punk pipe bomb.
And since then, whenever somebody drops like a really heartfelt promo or a shoot or something, it's called a pipe bomb. So Punk not only coined the term, he made that term his own. And this is still probably I think this is, in anybody's list, this is one of the most controversial moments. We couldn't not talk about this.
Apparently, CM Punk actually hates that it's called Pipe Bomb now.
Yeah,
really.
He doesn't like it, especially since he kind of wants to distance himself from wrestling, which, unfortunately for him, is impossible. So
yeah, look at
that. Next, wait, I'm next. Aren't I?
Yeah, you're next.
Okay, I'm next. All right. Now, this controversy is one of my favorites because I was fortunate enough to see this evolve on TV. Now, this involves 3 people, and oh man, where do I begin with this? So, when I say controversy, I'm really surprised that we haven't talked about Edge, because Edge is the master of fucking controversy. I'm surprised we did that. The whole live sex thing wasn't on this list.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that until you chose this one. Because I know that was a very controversial moment, but I mean, a big part of that is this controversial moment, so just name it.
Yeah. The Lita, Matt Hardy, Edge love triangle. Jesus Christ. This is one of the angles that WWE ran that blurred the lines between, is this real or is this not? They were using their real names. They were using all sorts of things on the internet. There was all sorts of interviews and stuff.
This was absolutely real. Pretty much all of it. These guys, you could not put them in a room together without them wanting to strangle each other. I think it was at SummerSlam that these two finally got in the ring together. And
Matt Hardy takes this sick bump. Matt Hardy takes this sick bump, forehead right on the post. He's bleeding like a fucking pig, and they had to stop the match.
They legitimately hated each other. Obviously not Lita and Edge, but everybody else in the room fucking hated one another. And you could tell, this was back when they did that Reality Bites show.
Yeah.
It was the one that the nerdy guy, Grisham, yeah, that guy. Like, he would host it, and he was interviewing Lita at the time, and then fucking Matt Hardy calls up on the line. He's like, "Hey, Amy, what's up, bitch?"
It was really cool how they played all this out because this drove the drama dial up to 11 and then fucking broke it. It was so great because these two had some great matches. These two had great chemistry going all the way back to the TLC days. And then to see them compete like in a ladder match, and then they did a street fight, and then arguably the best match that they had, a cage match at Unforgiven with a fucking sick ass leg drop off the top of the cage.
We haven't even mentioned why they hate each other.
Oh, yes, why they hate each other. Okay, so if some people know about the whole Matt Hardy and Lita thing. That was a thing for a while. There was a cutesy little love romance, that's redundant, relationship going on between them. And then Edge shows up, and then there's a little bit of drama going on there because apparently Edge slept with Lita. And Edge and Matt Hardy were friends.
So basically, Matt Hardy was out of commission due to an injury, and so his dick was out of commission, which meant Lita needed some dick, but it couldn't come from Matt Hardy, so she settled for Edge instead.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
She was tired of country dick, so she went for Canadian dick.
It could have been worse, though. She could have picked Jeff.
Oh, yeah,
How
that would have...
awkward would that have been?
That would have been nasty.
We would have had Matt Hardy and Jeff a lot earlier.
Jeff Hardy wasn't in the WWE at the time.
Yeah, because he was off doing something else.
Yeah, he came back to the WWE in late 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. That's when he had his second run. He was off doing something else because drugs. Matt Hardy actually went out in 2005 after the scandal broke, and Matt Hardy and Edge didn't have their big match until like 2007, I think.
Six.
Sorry, yeah, 6.
Well, part of the big thing about this was, like, this whole fucking controversy ended up getting Matt Hardy fired. And, like, the crowd was so fucking behind Matt Hardy that they basically got his job back. And when he got his job back, that's when the shit really started to fly. And that's how we got the crazy-ass match at SummerSlam between those two. Like, I think that was, like, his first match back from being fired.
I think so, yeah. Then they had that street fight where they dove off like the side and crashed like the electrical shit. And then of course their cage match. So
yeah,
I mean, and then I think wasn't one of their last matches like at Homecoming or something in a ladder match with the Money in the Bank something?
Money in the Bank wasn't a thing back then, I don't think.
Are you sure? Because I thought they had a match where Matt Hardy lost and he got sent to SmackDown, and that was involved in the Money in the Bank.
That was the cage match. Like,
no. There was I remember it was a ladder match at WWE Homecoming with the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line, and Edge won. I'm like 90% sure that's what happened. I could be wrong though. But what was really cool is that this little controversial rivalry, whatever. This rivalry,
hard.
This rivalry is definitely deserves to be on here because not only is it Edge made this look good, Lita made this look good, it pushed Matt Hardy higher than I think he's ever been, probably higher than his brother.
Bam! That's a drug joke if you didn't catch that one.
But it was really good. Also, since we did mention Jeff Hardy, I know we're not talking about the Victory Road thing that happened where he got really high and kind of fucked himself over.
Honorable mention.
I saw that match.
I agree.
I saw that match, and I was speechless because Sting's just standing like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
This is why I don't watch TNA.
All right, so next up on our list is, I think, probably the most famous controversy at this point. It was a very, very important controversy because it launched a brand new period in the WWE, changed a lot of gears, and was one of the first times where kayfabe exploded and no longer mattered. It happened because two wrestlers did not like each other at all, to the point where I'm surprised one of them didn't kill the other. But it didn't happen. Instead, we got, in 1997, one of the most career-defining moments and industry-defining moments in wrestling history. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Survivor Series, the Montreal Screwjob.
This is I've seen this top many different controversy lists at number one. It's so controversial that it's gotten its own DVD with a sit-down interview between the two of them. It's gotten, like, I think maybe one or two books. It's gotten specials. It is probably the most controversial moment the WWE has ever done.
Minus the other one that we're going to talk about.
Well, yeah, besides that. But this one.
The most controversial one that's still kind of incorporated kayfabe.
Yeah. This moment is like, all right, so you have to go back to about 1992. Bret Hart is on the rise, and Shawn Michaels has just broken away from Marty Jannetty to become a singles star. And Shawn Michaels was pushed immediately. He didn't win the championship until 1996, but he was a big fan favorite, particularly among women. And among wrestling purists, Bret Hart was the guy. He was one of the only people to beat Yokozuna, clean or unclean, and he did so at WrestleMania 10.
He was basically their version of Cesaro.
Yeah, in a way. Bret Hart was an incredibly gifted technical wrestler. Fun fact, the whole 5 Moves of Doom thing originated with him, so...
Really?
Yeah, it did, because Bret Hart's sequences at the end kinda were a little bit predictable. If you watch a large series of his matches, you're gonna know how it ends very quickly. It was the stuff before that in his matches was where he got so much respect. But regardless, Bret Hart was on the rise, Shawn Michaels was on the rise, but they didn't really like each other that much. You look at Bret Hart, you look at Shawn Michaels, and then you look at WrestleMania 12, their very famous Iron Man match, where Shawn Michaels won the championship off of Bret Hart. You would think like that would be the beginning of a wonderful rivalry, something like John Cena versus Edge or Stone Cold versus The Rock, where you have two guys that are decent fans of each other that will have classic matches. That's not what happened. They didn't like each other because Bret Hart was very stubborn and very headstrong, and Shawn Michaels was a coked-up loser. Those two things don't mesh. You have Shawn Michaels, who's very carefree, but very irritable, very angry all the time, and is always on blow. And then you have Bret Hart, who's extremely proud, who's extremely stubborn. And when you try to get these two kinds of people together, it doesn't work. And they didn't like each other, and because they kept being forced to work with each other, and Bret Hart was really mad about dropping the title to Shawn Michaels because he won it, but he felt as though he was a transitional champion. The whole point of him having the title was so he could drop it to Shawn Michaels. He didn't like the fact that his time in the sun in 1994 was over, and I can totally understand that because the person that came after him was Diesel, and that's complete bullshit. I'm sorry, Kevin Nash, you're cool, but that was not your time. So this whole thing keeps escalating, and they're having promos together. Bret Hart gets in the ring and says, "You deserve a fighting champion, one that treats the belt with respect, not a champion that poses in girly magazines." And Shawn Michaels goes, "How do you know that I was in those girly magazines? You just had to keep flipping the pages, didn't you?" Of course, the joke is kind of lost on me. I understand what he's talking about, but Shawn Michaels was on the cover of Playgirl, so you didn't need to flip the pages to know that he was on it, but this whole thing just keeps... Yeah.
Now, if I may quickly jump in, a quick little history here. Bret Hart was planning on leaving to go to WCW, and he was the current champion at the time. So there was the whole controversy kind of goes down to, what the hell do we do? How do we get the belt? Like, we don't want to lose the belt, because they were losing superstars left and right to WCW. Heaven fucking forbid they lose the WWE Championship, or WWF Championship at the time, to WCW.
Never gonna get
so, what did they do?
They basically say, like, they were in a room. Like, Brett, Shawn, Vince, and, like, all of creative were in a room for hours trying to figure out how the fuck we're going to do this. Okay, we'll have this kind of finish. No, we can't have that. No. And Brett kept shooting down every fucking idea that they had, and finally they were just like, okay, we'll figure it out later. Brett leaves the room. We're taking the fucking title off of him. Like, we don't care what he has to say. This is happening, and it's happening right fucking now.
Survivor Series 1997, I believe, right? 97? 97. It's right down to the final part. Shawn Michaels decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to do something funny. I'm going to put Bret Hart in his own finishing move. He rolls him over, and then you hear the bell. Everybody freezes for a second. They're like, wait, what? What happened? Shawn Michaels' music starts playing. Bret Hart has already gotten out of the hold, and he's like, the fuck? I didn't tap.
You could even see the look on Sean's face. He was like, wait, no, wait, oh, fuck, Bret's gonna fucking kill me.
Shawn was totally acting, though, because Shawn was absolutely in on it. And Bret Hart, of course, he gets out of the hold and he realizes very slowly what's happening. He leans over the ring, sees McMahon by the timekeeper's office, because that match is like, I've seen the ending many, many times, like a lot of wrestling fans, and McMahon yelling, "Ring the bell! Ring the bell!" still echoes in my mind because of how important that moment is, and I'll get to that a little later, but Bret Hart just spits right on Vince McMahon's face.
Big old glob.
He doesn't want anything to do with it, and he leaves. And the funny part about all this is that they didn't need to do this. Bret Hart's contract didn't expire until the beginning of 1998. They could have waited. They didn't have to drop the title at Survivor Series. They could have waited a little longer until they were out of Canada. Because, yeah, the big stinger in this, the kicker, is the fact that this was in Montreal, his home plate, and they still went along with it, and it stung in the face of a lot of the Canadian fans, because Bret Hart was a Canadian hero at the time and for all time, but man, this is the kind of moment that you could watch hours of documentaries and just read thousands of pages of letters and pamphlets and essays and interviews of all kinds of people that have their own unique perspective, and you still will not be able to wrap your head around this. Like, there are so many documentaries and other things about them. This Wrestling with Shadows, the episode about this on Monday Night Wars. And I still can't wrap my head around all of this because all of the accounts are different, and all of the accounts point to the fact that everyone lost the battle.
Yeah, but eventually, like, they just...
Bret screwed Bret. We haven't even mentioned that.
Oh, Bret screwed Bret. That was the moment that Vince McMahon turned into Mr. McMahon. Like, when he turned into the power-hungry, just authority figure that was in charge of the WWE with an iron fist.
If I may also say, this moment has been repeated many different times. It was repeated when CM Punk went up against Undertaker in a submission match. It was repeated when Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart made up, and Vince and Bret Hart had a WrestleMania match that wasn't even a match, really. It was kind of pathetic. Then we had, like, Vince trying to do it at Money in the Bank 2011. This moment has been tried to, like, it's been repeated.
They repeated it at Survivor Series 1998.
Yeah.
With The Rock and Mankind. Like,
it's
this
been
goes
repeated
on and on, but I mean, this moment was arguably the catalyst that launched the Attitude Era, because it meant Bret Hart exited the company, and it made way for Shawn Michaels to drop the title to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14, arguably the most important WrestleMania moment of all time. I should say, it's the most important WrestleMania moment, trademark, hashtag, rights reserved, of all time. And it also, like you mentioned, spurned the creation of Mr. McMahon. By the way, Vince McMahon called himself Mr. McMahon because Vince McMahon hates titles. Like, he'd prefer people call him Vince as opposed to Mr., which I can respect. But
yeah,
there was so much that happened in that moment that if it didn't happen, it's very likely that WCW could have won the Monday Night War.
Yeah. And the person that lost the hardest, obviously, out of all of this was Bret, because, like, he not only did he lose the title, but he went over to WCW and they had no fucking idea what to do with him. Like,
you have Bret fucking Hart. Do something with him.
Well, the thing is, he got injured.
Yeah, but still, like, even in the matches that they had him in, they just basically clumped him in with Hogan, and we're just like, all right,
dude. We could have had some great matches. Imagine if we had a match with, like, Bret Hart versus Jericho, or say Bret Hart versus Rey Mysterio, Bret Hart versus Eddie fucking Guerrero, Bret Hart versus any of the fucking cruiserweights.
Dude, you could say that about literally anything that happened in WCW. Like,
you know what we got instead? We got Bret Hart versus Goldberg, and Goldberg hurts Bret Hart and ends his career in 15 seconds.
Basically, what happened after the Montreal Screwjob, WCW killed Bret Hart's career. We can it's basically sum it up like that. WCW killed his career.
Yeah, and
WCW screwed Brett.
thankfully, though, we did get closure. Bret Hart did return to WWE in January of 2010. He made up with Shawn Michaels in the ring. That little, I love that moment though, because Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart shake hands. Shawn Michaels goes to the ring ropes, looks at the crowd, kind of lowers his head dejectedly, and it's really cute, actually. He does a little shuffle over to Bret Hart and just kind of wraps his arms around him, and Bret Hart's like, "Yeah, you little baby, come here." It's really adorable, and I appreciate it. And then Vince comes out and betrays Brett, and then they have that WrestleMania match. The match was stupid, but it was nice to have, because at least we had closure.
Yeah.
You could practically hear Brett go, you little son of a bitch.
Yeah, you could. It was great. I really, really liked it. But, I mean, we could talk about this moment all day. You guys know about it. You can read about it. Although, if you want to read about it, you're going to have to set aside about, I don't know.
A few hours.
Fuck that. You're going to have to set aside your entire summer. It's going to take a while. There's a lot of accounts. There's a lot of things that happen. But, seriously, the Montreal Screwjob, it's not referenced a lot for no reason. But, there is one other moment that WWE tries to make you forget about. As a matter of fact, it's not even a moment. It's an entire career. And the reasoning, whether or not they should do this, is kind of up for grabs. All we know is that they did it. Nikki, please elaborate.
By the way, for those of you that have made it this far, God knows how long you've been sitting here, I think this is what you've all been waiting to hear. So, yeah, Nikki, I don't think we need to beat around the bush with this. Go ahead.
On the June 11th edition of Monday Night Raw, the WWE had their annual WWE draft. And there was two big people that got drafted that are important to this story. Bobby Lashley, the sitting ECW champion, was drafted to Raw, vacating the ECW World title. Chris Benoit was drafted from SmackDown over to ECW. Later accounts would reveal that Chris Benoit was set to be the face of ECW for quite some time, because this was already after RVD and Kurt Angle had left, so they needed a face, and they decided that it was going to be Benoit.
Benoit was set to face Punk at Vengeance 2007, and Benoit was set to go over. Think of that. CM Punk versus Chris Benoit. That could have happened.
Fucking incredible. But no, unfortunately, his last match turned out to be against fucking Elijah Burke.
Who?
Fucking exactly. So he ended up missing the house shows heading into Vengeance, claiming that his wife and son were vomiting blood due to food poisoning. And then he no-showed the pay-per-view, and Johnny Nitro was given his, he was a last-minute replacement. Nitro won. At this point, it's not important. By the time, I think it was later in the night or early the next morning, it was found out that Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and his son, was it Daniel or David?
David, I think.
No, David's the one that's still alive. Daniel's the one who died.
Never mind. Daniel then.
Yeah, Nancy and Daniel were all dead in their house in Atlanta. And the night after that on Raw, they had this unbelievably glowing testament to his career, talking about all the important stuff that happened, like his career in New Japan back when he was the Wild Pegasus, back in his time in WCW, in his days with the Radicals, and biggest of all, winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 20, and that big moment with Eddie Guerrero. And they also had all these interviews with Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Edge and Jericho and all these other people that were important in his career.
I think Eddie passed away before then.
Well, Eddie, it was a thing where Eddie was talking about Benoit. Although I might be thinking the other way around. It might have been Benoit that was talking about Eddie.
Yeah, it was Benoit talking about Eddie.
And the most heartbreaking of all of those was Malenko, because Eddie, Chris, and Dean Malenko were all really good friends, and those three were the really tight-knit bunch of the group, and both of them were gone, and Malenko was the only one that was left, and it was just oh fuck, that sucks. But anyway, as we go further down the road, more information comes out, and as it turns out, Benoit was the one who killed his wife and child and then himself in a double murder suicide. And after that, like, the WWE has done literally everything in their power to erase Chris Benoit from the annals of WWE history. Like, one of his biggest accomplishments was being one of only 2 people to win the Royal Rumble from the number 1 position. They'll say that there was 2 guys, but they'll only mention Shawn Michaels. Like, they'll never mention again that Chris Benoit won the 2004 Royal Rumble from the number 1 spot.
And then went on to headline WrestleMania 20, beating Triple H and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, they'll say that
here's the
Michaels
thing.
and H lost. They'll never say who won.
Here's the thing, though. This could have gone down a little differently had circumstances not been like this. The special that they made for Benoit is still, to me, one of the it's heartbreaking to see, because you know that only a little while later they find out what happens, like the true details behind it, and then all of that just changes. But had it just been, that he passed away, Benoit would be in the Hall of Fame by now. But because of the circumstances, which are
he would have been in the
terrible,
Hall of
to say the
Fame
least.
that year.
Oh, yeah, more than likely. But the circumstances that happened with this, with the double murder suicide, changed, I think, the foundation of WWE in a sense.
Like, if it was just suicide, I can see them condoning it for the purpose of that, and it probably would have awoken a lot of the issues about mental health when it comes to athletes and wrestlers and stuff like that, and it would have done a lot. But of course, Benoit decided to do the most despicable thing, which is to kill off your own family members. And immediately, the media snapped up on the story, because the media does what the media did, and decided to say, oh, it's another steroid thing, because steroids are easy to point to when it comes to wrestlers doing things that make them angry. The same issue came up with Stone Cold and Deborah back in 2002. You can read up all about that if you want. But in this case, Benoit, of course, is pinned for being a steroid user. And they all go like, oh, he had a fit of roid rage. And Chris Jericho was the closest, because he was on Larry King Live along with John Cena, Steve Blackman, and Bret the Hitman Hart. And there was one other person, I can't remember who it was, but Chris Jericho said that it was all just a bunch of emotions that was bottled up inside, and eventually it's going to explode and the results aren't going to be good. He was the closest, because we now know, a couple of months after the fact, that Chris Benoit was not mentally sane. He had actually been suffering from a very severe case of brain damage, some kind of encephalopathy. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
I know what it was. It was when they did the brain autopsy on him. They found that his brain was that of, say, an 80, 90-year-old person with dementia. And that's from all the stuff that he ended up doing with his flying headbutt. It's with the stuff with all the chair shots that he took. All this culminated with that.
It's the CTE thing. It's the same thing that happened with Junior Seau. It's the same thing that happened with Dave Duerson. Like you're seeing it come out now recently with all these football players who are, like, either going mentally deficient or dying or killing themselves because they have complete fucking brain damage. And like basically the same thing happened with Benoit. It was like a combination of the brain damage, the steroid abuse, and depression and all kinds of other shit. And it at some point it's going to, like Jericho said, end poorly.
The only good thing that really came out of this was, since then, like, chair shots to the head have been banned. So at least out of this, something good came out of it.
But even then, that doesn't compare to the loss of 3 lives.
Like, I know, but I'm just saying, like, something small came out of this. I'm just mentioning that something came out of that.
I understand that you look at the positives, but there's something about this that absolutely bugs me. I said that the media just went apeshit about the whole claim that it was steroids, but a couple of months later, when the autopsy came out and they revealed that no, it was brain damage from too many chair shots to the head, the media at that point had grown bored of it. They were no longer focusing on it because it was a wrestler. It's not like it was a really famous media figure like Anna Nicole Smith or Michael Jackson where they can run with this shit for years. No, that's not the case. But at that point, of course, the media wasn't reporting that it was actually brain damage, so there's still a lot of people out there that believe that Chris Benoit killed his family out of roid rage, and that is a shame. That is a massive shame, because if the media had done something about the whole mental nutcase thing with brain damage, we would have a lot more focus on concussion awareness and a lot more focus on mental health inside and outside of sports than we have now. But that's not the case, and that, I think, is the biggest shame of it all.
I would have to agree. Now, I find it funny that we end here talking about Chris Benoit and how WWE has erased like Benoit from existence. The same thing that they're doing with Hogan right now. And what really sucks about all of this, at the end of the day I still care about Chris Benoit. I'm not going to discount the fact of what happened it was horrible. But what I'm always going to remember, though, is that he was a fucking good wrestler. He had some great matches. He was putting on like 4 or 5-star matches in just about anything that he was put with. Sure, his rivalries were not like the most, iconic or dramatic. They were like bare bones, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. But, Benoit, I guess we're going to talk about how much we remember Benoit. Benoit was, God, why am I getting
Benoit
emotional
was the
over this?
best.
God damn it. He was a brilliant ring technician. And we see that today with like Daniel Bryan, because I see so much of Benoit and Daniel Bryan, right down to the brawling, right down to the mat wrestling, to all this. Benoit and Angle and Eddie were like 3 of the top technicians, and also Malenko and Bret Hart and all these others. Like Benoit was right up there. Benoit and Angle put on some of the best matches, and Benoit could make anybody look good, I think. I'm glad that his last WrestleMania, Benoit's last WrestleMania, was 23. He beat MVP. He retained the United States Championship, and he at least his last WrestleMania was a win.
Look, a lot of people are still under the distinction that WWE shouldn't have erased his name from memory. I say fuck you to that. WWE has every right to do that. I mean, imagine if, for example, say, Tom Brady murders his wife and then kills himself. The Patriots would have every right to scrub his name from memory. Like, every single right to do that. You could do the same thing with Kobe Bryant. Let's say Kobe Bryant kills a dude. All of the teams that he used to play for, I think Lakers and the Heat are the most prevalent. Sorry?
He only played for the Lakers.
Oh, he only played for the Lakers. Sorry, I must be thinking.
Yeah, you're thinking of Shaq.
I'm thinking of Shaq. Yeah, Shaq played for Lakers, Heat, and Celtics, if I'm not mistaken. Let's say they did that. The Lakers would have every right to scrub his name from memory. But to say that the WWE had no right, yeah, of course they did. Chris Benoit was under a massive delusion, but instead of turning himself in, instead of doing the right thing and talking to someone about these issues and getting the help he needed, as sad as it would have been, instead he decided, under drastic circumstances, to end the career of one of the greatest wrestlers and to end the lives of himself, his wife, and someone that didn't even stand a chance in this world. And that is something that I can't forgive. As good as Chris Benoit was in the ring, what he did is unforgivable.
I'm still okay with, like, talking about him, but, like, I agree that the WWE was pretty much right in just, like, saying, no, we're not going to talk about this guy.
Hey, and Zach, remember how you always wanted to talk about Benoit on this cast? Hey, do you want to talk about him now?
You know what? I still do, because I will always remember Chris Benoit as a part of history. I know that no matter how hard, like, the current times, like, for people who are just getting into it, still have no idea who he is, but fans that have been around, all of us that have been around for years, that have watched wrestlers come and go, who have watched wrestlers change from heel to face, from gimmick to gimmick, from championship to championship. It doesn't matter in the end whether or not the WWE erases somebody, because we are always going to remember that. We're always going to remember either one side of the wrestler or the other. We may not forgive wrestlers, but at the end of the day, we can't not forget people, if you know what I mean. We can't just erase people. We can't just pretend they never existed, because that to me is wrong. And I know it's Benoit. I totally understand. I should be forgetting that he ever existed and knowing that it was terrible what happened. Because of that, I don't ever want to remember him. But that's just not the type of person that I am. And maybe that's just me. Maybe there's some people out there that agree with me, but I'm still going to remember Benoit for what he did, for his moment, because you can't erase that WrestleMania 20 moment. No matter how hard you fucking try, you can't erase that to me. You can't just erase Benoit from history. You can try as hard as you fucking can. But for us fans, you cannot erase Benoit to us.
And that's all, folks.
So yeah, that pretty much ends this. This is Jesus. Thank you. If you stayed all the way to the end of this, major props to you for this.
I hope you enjoyed us finally talking about the Benoit controversy, because I'm pretty certain there's a couple of you that really wanted us to do it. So here you go.
Yeah. No matter how terrible it is, we still kind of have to talk about it.
Wait, I'm sorry.
All
Who's Chris Benoit again? I'm looking on WWE's site and I can't find it anywhere.
He's one of them.
Okay, at least we can end this on a laugh. So yeah, thank you guys for sitting through all this. And any of you that, get bored and decide to fire up our podcast and just listen to us, we thank you so much for that. So as usual, like, comment, subscribe, check out our Twitter handles, Patreon, all that good stuff. Put down in the comments what you think is probably the most controversial moment or segment or something in the comments below. Let's see what you guys have to say. And yeah, see you on the next thingy.
Jet fuel can't melt
I-
steel beams!
Wait,
Now
I
we're
just
getting to all
realized
kinds of other controversies. Oh, actually,
Wait. We didn't do one thing in this video that was really important. And his name is John C.
Nikki, get the fuck out. When I see you at BronyCon, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. So fucking help me. I will put on a match in the middle of that fucking airport. There will be a Falls Count Anywhere match, motherfucker, and your face is going on the goddamn baggage claim thing. I will GTS you into the fucking ground, mister. Do you hear me, Nikki V? I will fucking GTS you into the
Good
fucking
night,
ground.
everyone.
I would pay to see that.